YouTube Ozzy in the Goat House is back. After day 2 of the NFL Combine with my winners and losers, we did the same thing for day 1. I have a pop-up on your screen right now. Also a link to recent videos pinned in the comments. Winners and losers, though. For the winners, we'll take a look at where their draft position may be now after a great Combine workout. We'll be doing this for every day of the Combine. We'll have a post-Combine updated mock draft after. We got all kinds of content here covering free agency, trades, a lot going down. We have live updates on our Twitter for the Combine and for all these crazy rumors that are going on with free agency and trade. So join us on Twitter. Link down below. It's at Goathouse NFL. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on for all the content. Can't wait for free agency, the draft. We got you covered. Here's our Twitter. A lot of updates. Right before we're going to record this, a little bit interesting news there. Robbie Anderson, the Patriots, checking in, seeing if they can trade for him. There's a lot of rumors like this coming out right now. We're always talking the numbers, thoughts, everything. So join us on our Twitter. Be very important. First, Trevor Penning, big winner. He was a winner of the Senior Bowl, and he's a winner of the Combine as well. I mean, this is a big dude, a power blocker, and to be able to put athletic numbers up like this, 4.89 is fantastic. You actually look over the last several years, and the interesting number, the unique number that pops up for the 40-yard dash is 4.93. Some tackles that have ran 4.93 or better seem to be panning out in the NFL. Some very, very good ones. The top-tier guys, too. And we see the athletic tackles are just that's what's working in today's NFL, too. So see a guy like Penning who presents all this power as well, and we see him have a good showing at the Senior Bowl and the Combine. He's improving, and then have these numbers. It's pretty ridiculous. You see across the board at 3 cone times, 7.25. That's pretty damn impressive. Shows the quickness as well. So he has the speed, the quickness, the power, everything. Top 32. He was talked about a little bit better than top 32, but within the first round, some people were still a little hesitant on him, maybe because he hasn't played against the best competition, but I really don't think, and he has been mocked there a bit, the Ravens at 14, I really don't think gets by that point. I really don't. And we start putting him in the conversation of top 10 at this point. We start looking at the Giants with their 2 picks, the Panthers with their early pick. Broncos, could the Broncos put him at right tackle? They're looking for the right tackle. That's a pick 9, and I just really don't think it gets by that 14 spot there. So Penning looking pretty good. Again, you just combine the power with the athleticism, and I don't know what's more impressive, that 40 time or the 3 cone time there. So both great. Good outing for Trevor Penning. Talk about Abraham Lincoln from Washington State. The tackle from Washington State. See, the last good one, Andre Dillard, was a first-round pick to come out of there. So here's another solid one, Abraham Lucas. And, very, very good athletic day testing-wise for the Washington State product here. Across the board, some good numbers. See that 3 cone, that 7.25 numbers, very good. Shows the quickness. He showed the speed. What's taken over in today's NFL. Wasn't talked about a whole bunch before, but he's got pretty good tape. He thought around late 3, early 4, and then after, could he sneak in that round 2? I'm thinking he could, because you take a look at the tackle class. Look at the top guys, so good. You look at Ekwonu, Evan Neal, Charles Cross, Trevor Penning, and then that's at the top of the first round. And you look at the back end of the first round, there's a couple studs, Tyler Smith. A couple guys down there, but then you start to look at it, it's a pretty big cutoff. You're just not going to find much starters. Teams may be scrambling for guys. Well, here's another guy that really boosted his stock and presents some pretty good day 2 value for teams looking for a tackle, but they could be sitting there and all these guys are gone. Like we said, we need a guy. Lucas is a very solid option here and presents that athletic profile that you're looking for today's tackles. Pretty good size too for that athleticism too. So you love to see it. Very good day from him. Pretty smooth in the drills as well. Zion Johnson. We talked about Trevor Penning, big winner in the Senior Bowl. Zion Johnson, a big winner in the Senior Bowl and the Combine, just like Penning. Just a big day. The 40-yard dash time I'm fine with. That's really not where he's going to be like a wow guy, but I'm not a big, bench press isn't a big thing for me, but somewhat important for offensive linemen. Shows the strength, and he was the top of the class here, so that's good, 32. But I'm really looking at the 3 cone and the shuttle numbers. Those are both fantastic numbers. Shows the quickness on him, and those are just great numbers. I mean, you want to have. You see the guys with the shuttle, the offense line with that shuttle number. If you've seen them in that range or better over the last several years, they pan out. They pan out pretty good, but there's not too many of them that have been in that. Yeah, around that 4.46. I want to say just under 4.50 in that shuttle, which shows quickness. Not too many of them, but the ones that have been have looked pretty damn good. So pretty good showing for Zion Johnson here. Before, maybe a little better for me, but the consensus was around the interior offense lineman 3. I think more people were talking about Linderbaum, who didn't work out, and then Kenyon Green, who we'll talk about later in this video. I think most people were talking about those guys ahead of Zion Johnson. I kind of had him in a little bit more, higher, and I think a lot of people did as well. But most people talked about in that range. I think he solidified himself as interior offensive lineman 1. I think a lot of people do like Linderbaum. He very well can go first, but then it brings up the conversation: is he just a center? And you look at Zion Johnson with the good showing at the Senior Bowl, good showing at the Combine. Seems like he's getting better. He has that versatility of playing center, though. He worked out at that position at the Senior Bowl. Teams like what they saw there. And he actually has reps at the tackle position. That's fantastic. That's great, too, because if teams have a tackle go down and they're desperate, they don't have any tackles, and maybe you have backup guards and you want to take the starting guard, Zion Johnson, move him to tackle, it's just good insurance there. So I really think there's a solid shot that Zion Johnson is the first interior offensive lineman taken. It's tricky to see where he could go. Could there be a team desperate for an interior? We'll see how free agency goes, but the Jets are looking for one. The Giants are looking for one. They pick pretty early. Maybe they trade back a little bit, but we could start talking about him up there. Up there, it looks pretty high, but we really could, because major drop off after those 3 guys that we mentioned for the interior positions. Major drop off. So teams are going to want to get that starter. They don't want to get that project guy. So it's just a big outing for Zion Johnson here. Cole Strange from Chattanooga, Tennessee Chattanooga, interior offensive lineman. Obviously somewhat of a small school guy. He's been getting a little bit of buzz, but a pretty good workout across the board. You look at it across the board, every test, every drill looks pretty damn good. Kind of what, small school guy, maybe round 4 talk, early day 3 talk before. After, could he go around that round 3? Again, it's a pretty weak interior offensive line class. There's a pretty good top 3 that we just talked about a little bit ago here. After that, it's a major drop off. Team scrambling the team, because there's only 3 of those starter potential guys. Not everyone's going to get. Only 3 teams are going to get those guys. So there's going to be teams scrambling for a starter, potential upside guy. So maybe Strange goes round 3. Could even go earlier there after a good workout. What about the running backs? Kenny Walker, his official draft profile says Kenny Walker now, so apparently that's what he's going by. Kenneth Walker, Kenny Walker, the running back from Michigan State, who's obviously a physical back, pretty built as well. Looked like he got maybe a little bigger, maybe more cut at the way you see him at the Combine as well. He looked pretty good. Runs a 4.38, which is the fantastic number. The other numbers, I think the vert's pretty good, 34, something outstanding. The other numbers aren't anything to get out of your seat about, but the 40 time, 4.38, while presenting that size, that power, is pretty ridiculous. So that's a big win for him. Top 75 pick before, which is kind of like early third. He wouldn't get by that point before, even though some people thought, second round still. I think, there's no chance he gets out of round 2. I think he has a shot to be the first running back taken. I really think I think 2 running backs solidified them, in my opinion, solidified themselves as, these are the 2 top backs, and I think he is one of them. So he locked himself, to me, not getting out of the second round as a top 2 back. I think, a fantastic year for Michigan State, but I think you go back and look at the Wake Forest tape. I think that helps a little bit too, so a little bit of different looks, a little bit different system there. I think that helps as well. So Kenny Walker definitely boosting his stock. That speed with that power, not too common. Not too common there. And then the other running back, Breece Hall. These are the top 2 backs in the class. Good size on him. Then running a 4.39 at that size. 40-inch vertical is ridiculous. Absolutely. The explosiveness that you see there, 10.6 broad, ridiculous. I mean, as you see the speed, the power, the tape matches. He's very good running inside, outside, breakaway speed, making people miss, breaking tackles, catching the ball. Had some spectacular catches too this year. He was my number one running back. If you follow us on Twitter, you realize that. Nobody at that time. It was odd that nobody was really talking about. People had Spiller, Walker at the top. No one really had. Main media had Hall at 1 for some reason. Everyone's starting to get in there now. So the consensus had it as a top 3 running back in that range. I had him at 1. So for me, he's sticking at 1, but it kind of solidifies that. And I'm impressed with things like the 40-inch vertical. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. I mean, just a freak dude there, absolute freak dude. Again, good size to match, the tape to match. So should be the first running back taken, in my opinion. A chance to go late 1. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. I thought he had a chance to go late 1. Maybe more likely early 2. We will see. Mainly because there's not too many teams that we need that running back. I mean, there's a couple teams, but they've still got free agency as well. So we'll see. But I mean, those top 2 backs, a great showing. Zamir White, the Georgia running back, who was hyped up a little bit more early on in his career, and it kind of cooled off a little bit, but you like the size on the kid. 6 feet tall, 214 pounds. You like that size. You like the build. You see him break tackles. He can run with some physicality, obviously. But going and running a 4.4 flat there, that's pretty damn good. That's pretty good. The vert and the broad jump are solid. The broad jump's really good, actually. The vert's solid. It's not disappointing. It's not great. But that 40 time, with that size and his physicality, it's not like it's Kenny Walker, Breece Hall physicality maybe, but 4.4 is a pretty damn good number. He wasn't get talked about much, Round 4 guy, maybe he gets in that round 3. Maybe he starts to get a little more of that hype that when he was younger at Georgia, because we looked at him and thought, this guy's maybe a future late 1, early 2, so maybe he's kind of getting back in that in that conversation. Maybe not quite, but that's a good outing. That's a good 40 time there. And look at that. We got both Georgia running backs up here. There's something super surprising about what James Cook did out there on the field in Indy. I mean, we kind of expected this thing, but, how he performed, I should say. I thought he looked good. I thought another guy that kind of put a little bit more strength on, kind of looking a little bit more like his brother Dalvin Cook, who's got a little more strength to him. But that was kind of the difference. You look at James Cook while he played at Georgia. You look at Dalvin. Dalvin overall the better runner, but different builds. But Cook kind of getting there. James Cook, that is, kind of getting there, actually. So I like the way he looked, which plays a part. 4.4, 240. Even, the unofficials were 4.50, and that's fine. But then you see the official 4.42, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's good. Vert and broad jump pretty decent there. But mainly in the on-field workouts, the drills, I thought he looked real smooth. So maybe the better one. Of the backs, working out in the on-field. So it's just what he is. He's smooth. We know his upside, catching the ball out of the backfield, even outside. Before it was kind of, maybe some round 3 talk, but if people were kind of labeling him, is he an every down back? Probably not. Is he a physical runner? Maybe not. Some flashes. Is he just a receiving back? That's kind of a lot of people's labels. So that, looking at with that label, it's kind of round 4, early round 4 maybe, but I think he presented some things that shows he can be a lot more than that. And even if you watch the tape, you kind of can find some things as well. So I think he's got to be a top 75 lock, which is a part of the 3rd round there. So I mean, it's a passing game now, and you see the receiving ability, the mismatches, even lining him up out wide. You want to get a linebacker around him. That's what you want to do. I mean, he might be able to handle corner or safety as well, depending on the matchup. But looks pretty good. Looked very smooth on the on-field drills here. So a lot of extra guys to talk about. Ikem Ekwonu is known as one of the top-tier guys in the draft. Did he really improve his stock? It was kind of hard to improve because he was a top-tier elite prospect in his class. But I'd say maybe he did. He might be, with Evan Neal not working out and Ekwonu having a really good 40 and pretty smooth in the on-field drills, I think he's maybe even more in consideration for the number 1 overall pick. So that's pretty good. Cam Jurgens, the center from Nebraska, impressive 40. Didn't see a whole lot else from him, but impressive 40 seems like a smooth interior offensive lineman with his footwork. But I like this because there's not a long list of centers. Never really is. There's not a long list of interior guys in this class. It's a pretty weak class. And then you look at the centers. You look at Tyler Linderbaum at the top, who's impressive. He's got a good tape. He's a physical blocker. We didn't get to see him work out, but more athletic than you think. But how high do you take a center? There's some teams like, I don't really want to take a center that high. Do you wait for like the Creed Humphrey, a guy that's kind of sneaky, could be a starter and has the athletic profile like Cam Jurgens? So I think he probably helped himself. Teams looking for, we want to start a starting center. We don't want to take that guy in the first round. Let's take this guy in the early third, maybe. Makes sense to me. Dylan Parham, who I didn't have a whole lot on heading into the combine. In terms of getting deep dive into the tape, we still got to watch a lot of guys. But the interior lineman from Memphis, looked pretty solid in the drills. Looked very smooth. Again, there's a shortage on, after the round one guys for the interior offensive line. So there's a team that's kind of looking for some starting upside. They grab him in round 3, perhaps. Kellen Dyche, offensive tackle from Arizona State. Dominated testing. But did he really boost his stock that much? Because the problem with him is his length. Length is so important. It's so important for tackles, and he really doesn't have it. So I think there's probably some teams in their minds that made up. They're in their minds that we really want to take this guy because we're worried about the length. Rather have it take a guy with the length and the upside. So that's kind of a tough part there, but he did dominate the testing. And then Pierre Strong Jr., who I'm going to have to watch more of from South Dakota State, dominated testing, and he's known as a little bit more of an inside runner too. So not that he has crazy size or anything, but dominated testing, including that 4.37 40, which was the best of the class. So where could he possibly go? I still think a day 3 guy, but maybe in the earlier side of day 3. To watch some running backs that definitely didn't help themselves. Isaiah Spiller didn't run the 40. I think there's a reason for that. That's not great. He tested very poorly though when he did test. You look at the vertical, and you look at the broad jump. That shows how explosive these guys can be. Explosiveness. He's at the bottom of both of those. That is not good. You want to see him a little higher. And I think other running backs already did jump. I watched the tape. I was tweeting about it a month ago. Probably almost exactly a month ago, maybe not quite. But as soon as I put the tape on, you can see there's a difference between Breece Hall and Kenny Walker compared to Isaiah Spiller. It wasn't as explosive as those guys, and it kind of shows up in some of these tests. I was surprised he was at the bottom of those, though. So he probably gets jumped here, but still a solid back from A&M. Kyron Williams, who I like a lot, but a very slow 40. There does play faster, which you rather have the better tape there. But, slow 40 could hurt him because all these other guys are making money. All these other running backs are boosting their stock, doing good things, and they could be jumping Kyron Williams. So that's kind of the same situation. Soup Connor had a pretty good tape, but he tested poorly in every category, every single category across the board. So probably keep some in that day 3 conversation. And Jerome Ford, maybe not like a big loser because the 40 was fine. But there was so much hype on Jerome Ford, and he's supposed to test across the board extremely. He's supposed to be a workout warrior here, and that just didn't happen. 40 time, we expected a little faster, but it's in the 4.4 range, so it's really fine. But the other drills, little underwhelming testing wise. There was a lot of hype. I didn't really understand the crazy hype. I'm still a good back, but I wasn't really on board with the crazy. He was starting to get some crazy hype from some guys that cover the draft there, so. Maybe cool back down a little bit. Talking about some offensive linemen that didn't help themselves. The A&M guys, what's going on there? But Kenyon Green, who is known as a top 3 interior offensive lineman in this class, and definitely still is. There's a top 3 group that really separates himself, but he was in contention of that number 1 interior offensive lineman, and he probably got jumped here. He struggled with the, he didn't test that well. I wasn't really worried. I'm not really, 40-yard dash isn't going to affect Kenyon Green for me. I don't know, but struggled a little bit on the field work, just kind of looked a little stiff there. And I'd say Zion Johnson with his workout very, very likely jumped Kenyon Green. I feel like a little bit more safer taking Zion Johnson with his impressive outing, the Senior Bowl, the Combine. The quickness, the foot quickness looks pretty damn good, and the power with him as well. You combine all those things. So tough one for Kenyon Green. He probably still goes in the first round because he's got a pretty good tape. Darian Kennard, the offensive lineman from Kentucky, tested very poorly. He's a big dude, but he tested very poorly across the board, which isn't great. because, again, a lot of these guys that are taking over today's NFL, they're very athletic. It's just kind of what's taking over, especially the tackles. And he's got a pretty decent tape as a right tackle, but everyone kind of pushing him towards guard, and then he doesn't have the athletic profile for tackle, so it likely means he moves to guard. But is it ideal? Some guys have more upside at guard. I just think his tape's pretty solid at tackle, but again, I understand, with the lack of athletic ability, teams really don't want that, so it's tough. It's tough. He's got to move to guard, and it's a little bit of a mystery on how he'll be in guard. So he was once thought of as maybe an early 2. Does he drop a little bit? Again, a shortage on the good guard, so maybe a team takes a shot on him later too still. And then Max Mitchell, the tackle from Louisiana, he was starting to get a little bit of buzz. He was starting to get a little bit of hype. Tested poorly, though. I expected, from what I've heard, he was supposed to get better numbers, but he's towards the bottom in all those categories. So that was a little disappointing. Doesn't, get that transition to guard feel, like Kennard might be able to do it because he has some power to him and he has some good tape. Mitchell, you don't really get that feeling that he can move to guard. Kind of has some of the length, decent tape at tackle, but just didn't really test like he's going to be a great starting tackle day one. So that doesn't really help him much. So, yeah, there were quite a bit of losers as we could see between the running back and in the offensive lineman from day 2 of the NFL draft, unfortunately. But some big winners. You see some movement there. See a couple of those guys that were already in the first round conversation jumping guys and maybe going in that top 10. You talk about Penning, Zion Johnson. Could they hop in the top 10, or at least in that range? So interesting. Again, I can't wait for these. And there's day 3 starting in a couple hours here. So we'll have you live updates on Twitter. So check that out. Live updates for everything on there. The other days we'll have the videos, and then we'll have our updated mock draft. A lot of movement in my mind already, a lot of good fits, so I cannot wait to update it. But that's going to do it for the day 2 recap. Day 3 and 4 will be on the way. Don't you worry. Free agency is right around the corner. We have you covered fully with that. Free agency grades when the signings happen, when it all kicks off for every signing. So join us. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.